I don't know if Your Excellency is aware
Go on.
that you and Father Pfeiffer, you left a voicemail on Father Pfeiffer's cell phone in 2012.
Go on.
He held on to that until 2016 and organized a tinfoil hat conference in London, whereby he hatched his conspiracy theory that your lordship was in the service of Bishop Fillet to start a false resistance by which you would bring them slowly back into a reconciled society. And he used what you just said, that you're working on your exit strategy and a final deal with Fillet. That was the message you led.
Now we go back to the cause. And we have to say here, there have been two developments. We've been growing. But this growth is truly miraculous. One reason is because as we have grown, it is our own that have been the principal enemies trying to destroy us. Not the enemy. Our own people. From the very beginning. And so, it took a while to begin to realize it, but I want to actually play a message for you, a phone message, from Bishop Williamson, which was July the 15th, 2012. Remember, we were in very, very regular communication, myself and Bishop Williamson. And, he was really kind of like my spiritual director over those special years in India and so on. And we were in very, very regular communication. And, let's see if this thing... Now, I'm going to play a phone message, because Bishop Williamson called me, and he called me during Mass. Because remember, it's 5 hours ahead here than it is in the United States. So he called here in the afternoon on July the 14th, 2012, which is the day, we'll just take this from the, I won't play the July 14th one, we'll just play the July 15th one. And I see that this, we should have done that, right? It's the bad, okay, I can see it. It is that one. And let's pause it here.
8, 9, 4, 6, 7, 9, 1, 6, sent Sunday, July 15, 2012 at 10:16 a.m.
Hello, Father Bishop Williamson from London. News from the chapter. I can't...
Okay, this is the second message. Let me just give Bishop Williamson called me on July the 14th, 2012, the end of the chapter. Bishop Tissier spoke with him. Bishop Tissier talked to Bishop Williamson, gave him a summary of the chapter. That's the day the chapter ended. So this is before the release of the document, which says tainted with errors. Remember, that document was not released until the following week. It was released. We were waiting for the document. He mentions here, we're not sure if the public statement is going to actually be released. But he discusses the statement before it was released. July 14, 2012. Remember, we had already planned to have a meeting in August, starting August 7th. And he'll mention August 7th in the second message.
When Your Excellency comes into the resistance now, it's true, I think, that Your Excellency tweaked what our expectations would be. We went from
Concerning His Excellency.
Well, concerning the resistance apostolate period,
Yes.
You announced there wasn't going to be an SSPX 2B.
Right.
There was the independent pockets of resistance model.
Yes.
That was one of the early public disagreements with Father Pfeiffer, who persisted in striving for the traditional congregation. Why did you and Father Pfeiffer not see eye to eye on this? Was it because...
First, I don't believe I was in contact with Father Pfeiffer at that time. I had been in contact with him because before that, we're out in Asia. And I had encouraged him to quit this. I think I did encourage him to quit the society. That may well be on one of his email voicemail comment. You quoted something else from that voicemail correspondence, which surprises me.
Yeah, in 2016, there was something he played it for the world on YouTube.
Go on.
And it talks about your telling him that you still have to finalize more or less your exit strategy. You're still negotiating with Bishop Fillet.
I'd love to hear exactly what I said. Exactly.
Okay.
Then I could comment on it. I can't remember that voicemail to Father Pfeiffer. I cannot remember it. Therefore, I can hardly comment.
Okay.
In any case, to say that I was negotiating with Bishop Fillet, no, I don't think so. I don't recall at that time any direct contact between myself and Bishop Fillet. I don't recall. Memory fallible, but I don't recall any contact.
But Your Excellency said that you had a choice.
That came through Father Paul Morgan. Bishop Fillet said, and I don't think he put it in writing to Father Morgan.
And that's probably what you were talking about with Father Pfeiffer, was we're still trying to figure out, maybe you hadn't picked your preference yet or something. I don't know. I can send it another time to your lordship.
Yes, that's details.
Yeah.
We had a meeting planned for August 7th. If the general chapter goes bad, we will meet with approximately 30 priests. And I'm a sacristan. My job is just to set it up. I just call the people, make the arrangements. But it was a meeting primarily with Bishop Williamson, August the 7th through the 10th. 3-day meeting scheduled, and we had already scheduled it in the event that the meeting went bad. So he called me up saying the first day, news from the general chapter, not good. I'm inclined to come to a meeting, but let's not make it anything. Don't beat the war drums. He's afraid of me beating the war drums. So then, but he says I'm inclined to come. I was saying Mass when he called. So afterwards I called him back. We repeated the same thing. He said, did you check the message? He said, no, I didn't check the message. I just saw the missed call and called back. Second day, he left another message. That's this one. And did you check the message? He said, no, I didn't check the message. Next time, check the message. Okay, and so he told me to check the message. And then, and so I did afterwards, but we repeated the conversation. What's in this message, we repeated with a little more detail when we talked about it. But in this message, you'll notice a few things. This is July the 15th, 2012. Still keep it on the phone. And in this message, he makes several points. I don't think that the good guys had a victory in the general chapter, and they put brakes on Bishop Fillet. That the meeting of August the 7th may not be necessary anymore. You should go back, consider going back to the Philippines and accepting the punishment that Bishop Fillet is going to give you. They made me an offer, an amicable solution. I still have to see what the offer is. So he makes those points. And I don't want this to be the beginning of a big movement. That's July 2012. Many say that, well, the bishop's changed his view. Now, you notice that view is July the 15th, 2012, speaking to me. He encouraged me to not join the resistance, encouraged me to go back to the Philippines, to accept my punishment, to be quiet about the problems, and to just accept the transfers. This is advice he gave to me, and he gave to everyone I know of. So now you can listen to the actual message of the bishop.
Say much. For various reasons I can't say much. But be careful, because the good guys have put, at least for the moment, a serious block in the way of the delinquent Bishop Fillet. Now, the immediate danger is to that extent over. The text I think will come out, the text I think will show that. And I've been told that if Bishop Fillet disregarded that, it would cause an enormous as they got. They did not succeed in unhorsing Bishop Philip, which would have been the ideal. But they did at least block him. Okay, where does this leave you? I'm also on the exit ramp. I don't know yet details, but I am under the guillotine. Don't solidify plans yet for the 7th of August. Sketch things out, make things, see what will be necessary, see what's possible, raise possibilities, but don't yet commit me because I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't yet had the alternatives proposed to me, but I know that there's going to be a proposition. The proposition will be an amiable separation. Now, I've got here the details, and I'm going to have to make a decision. But I don't yet know what I'm going to do. So don't yet count on me. There's less necessity for such a meeting because the society has at least a reprieve. A reprieve for perhaps at least a year until, as I suspect, I think all of us suspect, Philly will crank up his nonsense again. He's an absolute delinquent. But if he does crank up his nonsense after the very clear, apparently, 80% satisfactory text of the chapter, it's going to be difficult for him to get work around it. It's going to be difficult for him to say, just 1 year, things are completely different. And the Third World War could easily start between now and then. Any moment now, the Third World War, it seems. So that's another question. So, Father, I would say, think rather of going back to the Philippines. The good priests, the priests who raise their voices, I think I told you, are going to be forgiven in inverted commas, in triple inverted commas, sheer blasted hypocrisy of that rat. But, in any case, you're going to be quote-unquote forgiven, but you're very possibly going to be resettled somewhere else. I don't think you'll lose much by being resettled from the Philippines. They'll have to put you somewhere, and wherever you are, you could do good work. But I do think that for the moment, you've not got sufficient reason to quit the society. That's my impression right at this moment. I still haven't spoken to Bishop Galareta, but I will with luck, and then he will probably confirm what I've heard. It's at least a noble effort on the part of the good guys who are in a minority, but who impose themselves by their weight and by their arguments. So,
To replay this message, press 4. To erase this message, press 7. To save it in the archives, press 9.
I haven't yet had the alternatives proposed to me, but I know that there's going to be a proposition. The proposition will be an amiable separation. Now, I've got here the details, and I'm going to have to make a decision. But I don't yet know what I'm going to do. So don't yet count on me.
Die, 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 die,
So then you could hear that. You could hear that, right? Oh, yes. So you can see there the points being made. I should go back to my assignment. And at the time, he also told me in their conversation later on, just after this, because remember I didn't listen to the message, and I talked to him and we had the same conversation. In the conversation he mentioned they offered me a solution. I have two choices. Either I can leave or I can leave amicably. They're going to offer me something. And they said, so you have two choices. You can leave or you can leave. I take the second one. Leave. And then he laughed. You know, and I said, well, how is that a choice? Just stand up. He says, no, I have to see what they're offering me. I need to see. And he spoke about the offer, the proposal, the proposition. He repeated about the proposition. He was very serious about, I have to see what the proposition is. He said, you don't accept propositions from the devil. Just stand up. And then he said, he told me about going back to the Philippines, that I don't need to beat the war drums, I should go back to the Philippines. It's not necessary to be outspoken anymore and accept my punishment and so on. And then I said, well, let me see that declaration first. And he says, we're sure the declaration is 80% good. And also, he spoke to me earlier about the doctrinal declaration of April 15th, 2012, which I didn't see until 2013. And he told me that Bishop Tissier carefully examined it and that there were no errors or heresies in it. Now, you should all be familiar with that declaration. When I met with the Dominicans of Avrier, a little bit angry with them in early 2013, I met with 8 priests around the table, and they said, look, you've seen the declaration of 2012, it's now been released. And Father Pierre-Marie told me, we must do a study. I said, no problem, you can study now. And I told them, I said, you know what, if I have a First Communion, someone studying for First Communion, and they don't know that's heresy, I'm not giving them First Communion. And if you don't know that's heresy, you need to get another job. And then they all laughed. And then, and that, you know, it should not take you more than 5 minutes if we're going to do a study on the Doctrinal Declaration. Now, as far as I know, the Dominicans have not ever produced a study on the Doctrinal Declaration. I don't believe they have. Is anybody aware of one? No. Don't think it exists. But Father Pierre-Marie told me, we will do a study. They have not done that study. And, you know, and it's because there's no way to study that document without saying it is pure modernist peanut butter. The Latin for peanut butter is bad in Spanish. But nonetheless, it is Latin garbage. It's garbage. So in any case, so I said, let me see the document. When I saw the document, and I saw, what is it, attaché, is that the word? Tainted. Entaché. Entaché. I spent 45 minutes talking about that word with Father Couture. And he tried to make it have a Catholic meaning. He never succeeded. And he admitted that I was right. So I spent 3 hours talking to my superior about this doctrinal declaration. I said, it's heretical garbage. And I told Father Couture, not only is this baloney, but it is clear that it's baloney because you have Michael Matt, who is a liberal, neoconservative guy. And he has put into the Remnant magazine, he put in, note this declaration of 2012, that this is a new declaration of the society, and we see for the first time they're not condemning the council as heretical. This is very encouraging. They recognize there's problems like we all do. But you can't say it's erroneous and heretical, and the wisdom of the society will be seen in this new document. And I said, that's what Michael Matt said about it. And he said, well, Michael Matt's a liberal. The next few days later, dc.org translated Michael Matt's English article into French and put it on the DC website as a good understanding of the general chapter statement. Now, normally frogs don't like Americans, number one, and they don't translate stuff from gringo into frog. But they did. And they put it on the website within a few days. And I called back Father Couture and said, Father, it's on the website. And that was it. So we must understand that there is a grave problem, and the problem is not that the Society of St. Pius X is making a deal with Rome. The problem is not that it's going in the direction of Rome. The problem with the Society of St. Pius X is that it is in error and heresy. Why were we against a deal with Rome? Because if you make a deal with the devil, you will one day agree with the devil. That's correct. They need a longer spoon. Now the fact is, they already agreed with the devil before the deal. We agreed with the devil before the deal, so therefore the deal is irrelevant. It is absolutely irrelevant. And everyone knows that. In their heart of hearts, they know that. The Society has already accepted that the new Mass is going to be promulgated. It's already accepted that it's only one Catholic Church, and we must be part of the greater church, like Father Nelly and Father Pfluger have said. We have to be part of the greater church. There's only one Catholic Church, and it's the true church. It's the true church. It's not two churches, conciliar church and Catholic Church. We're talking about a doctrinal error. This is far more serious than a deal. If you've ever bought a used car, or gone to a chore market in India, which means they call it by the correct name, it's a thief market. If you're not a thief, you don't go there. If you're not a thief, you don't sell there. So when you go to the chore market, you know you're dealing with a thief. We go there anyway. You get good deals. Now the fact is, you know you're dealing with a liar. He's going to sell you something that's garbage for a high price. Do you not buy from a liar? You buy from a liar all the time. It's called used cars. We can buy from liars. We can deal with liars. In fact, you have to do that in your daily life as a human being in a world infected with original sin. We don't have a problem with dealing with liars in the correct kind of circumstances. Our problem is heresy, error, the taking away of truth. That's the problem. We find a new doctrine within the Society of St. Pius X. This new doctrine is bringing souls away from Christ. Now, we go through this, maybe we don't want to go, we have to maybe do this tomorrow. Maybe go through more details, because it's already 5:30 almost. But the thing is, basically, when we go back to the history of 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, we will see that there is another movement within the resistance. As there from the beginning, real human beings working to really divide and destroy. And the leader of that movement was Bishop Nelson Williamson. He told me I should not stand for the truth. And I said, no, I'm going to continue to stand for the truth. He told Father Hugo, after the meeting in August of 2012, go home and pray for 3 months, but don't stay with Father Giselle and Father Hugo now. He wanted to get him time to hopefully be able to slowly bring in more and more weight. After the 3 months, he said, you need another 3 months. But Father joined and has stood strong ever since. We have also other priests told the same thing. Don't join. Father Jackman, I was just talking to him earlier, he made a mistake when he said he phoned Bishop Williamson. He didn't phone Bishop Williamson. He forgot that. In my 2,000-mile journey through Germany and France, I stopped in a place called, Kivren, right across from Lille, where they decided to rob the car and steal the computer. While I was talking to Father Jackman, they broke the windows and robbed the car. And while I was talking to him, and I met with him, and he said, you know, Bishop Williamson called me last night. I said, he did? Yes. He hasn't spoken to me for 3, 4, or 5 years. And he just called last night. I think it's a sign from heaven. It's a sign from heaven. What exactly did Bishop Williamson tell you, Father Jackman? He said I should stay in the society. Now, during this journey, I was stopping with Father Jackman because I'd already been in communication with him, and we'd already been communicating. I hadn't met him to the face; we'd only spoken. And he was going to join the resistance in early 2013. But he got a sign from heaven, and so he didn't join. It took until 2015. Souls have been lost because of this thing. And Priest called me in 2012 and said, and for instance, in the meeting, you heard one of the talks of Bishop Williamson. He called me each day throughout that whole July. One day he called and said, I'm inclined to come to the meeting. Next day, I don't think I'm coming. Next day, I'm coming. So a priest had called me. We got a meeting August 7th to the 10th. And they all asked the same question. Is Bishop Williamson going to be there? And I said, well, today should be no, because yesterday was yes. And he would call up and say no. But tomorrow, don't worry, he's going to say yes. And he would call up and say yes. Says, he's coming? I said, well, he did not say. He said he might come, but he may not be coming. So the priest got cold feet. Bishop Williamson, we want to be there with Bishop Williamson. I don't remember the names of all the 30 priests now. Mexico, South America, United States, England, and Europe. I was in communication with any priest. They backed off. They backed off. It ended up being 5 of us. And so some of the priests, like I told you, the one who went to the airport, escaped. And in the beginning I thought it was just because of the weakness of Bishop Williamson. But then as time progressed, realized that in that example is that trip through a 2,500 mile, which is 3,000 whatever kilometer, because I don't think in your clicks, more than a 3,000 kilometer journey throughout Europe, driving. In that journey, I did not know where I was going. I knew I was meeting multiple priests. I don't remember many of their names. But it was arranged by other people, and I just went along and met with the priests. But I didn't know my schedule. But there was a call from Bishop Williamson before I arrived. There was a call after I leave. The one that when I really began to notice that there's a big problem was when we go Father Jackman. That's when I began to realize, wait a minute, he just called Father Jackman last night. I meet the priests in Germany, and they tell me, yes, several priests, or at least 7 priests in Germany ready to leave. But they wanted to be under Bishop Williamson. Bishop Williamson rejected all of them. When Father Weinzel, he was really upset. He was beginning to become sedevacantist. And he couldn't believe it. And the other priests I met, I can't remember all their names anymore, but I met more than 10 priests in Germany. And when speaking with them, especially Father Brugula, he said he was going to be with Bishop Williamson. He prepared his people. In order to, but he didn't talk to Bishop Williamson. People thought at that time that I was the sacristan, which was my job in the seminary. I just set things up and take care of the practical details. But I was just simply doing what Bishop Williamson told me to do. And I didn't realize it wasn't like that. So everything I did was seen as an arm of Bishop Williamson. In fact, it was not only not an arm of Bishop Williamson, he was very gently and slowly trying to destroy every single thing and every move I made. 2013 began to be aware of how serious this was. He blocked the seminary in 2012, and I said there's going to be no blocking the seminary in 2013. It's starting. We're going to start. And he spoke to the seminarians, told them not to join the seminary, the ones that he knew about. One from here told them don't join. He changed his mind and joined. He told them leave. He refused to leave. The second time, he succeeded. It took 3 times. First time, don't come. He came anyway. Second time, he came to Kentucky. Leave. He didn't leave. Third time, he got him successfully to leave. Others, the same thing. Sisters, girls wanted to become nuns. Told them, don't become nuns. Don't enter the convent. Stay in the world. Priests wanted to join the resistance. He told them, do not join. Stay where you are. And because of the influence and the power, they listened. Then some would said, I don't think he's right, but we need a bishop. And they said, we've got to stand for the truth. Father Hannafin, my old pastor in Kentucky, used to say, don't worry. Every priest that is stand for the truth, he's never starved. See that I haven't got a starvation problem. But the fact is, no priest that has stood for the truth has ever starved. The only exception we make is St. Sylvester, the Pope, who was starved to death as his martyrdom. So that was his means of martyrdom. But other than being, or St. Silverius, I think it was, he was martyred by Pope Vigilius. The Pope killed the Pope. In the good old days, they used to get along. These two popes, don't have the same relationship. But nonetheless, but the fact is that there was a blocking communicating against each level of the way. And at first I just kept it quiet, and then I had to deal with it, also not only with the priest, but also the faithful. In that same talk in November of 2014, he told the faithful, you can go to the new Mass. First time he said it publicly. But I had heard this for the first time myself in 1988. The newly consecrated bishop, who was still taking his ring and playing with it and knocking it on the desk. And the first time I heard him speak about the new Mass, and that you could go to the new Mass, was in 1988 when I was a first-year seminarian. I've heard it multiple times since then. In 2013, in St. Mary's, Kansas, he was beginning to bring up that subject about the new Mass. We had about 75 or 80 people there. And they were at Bishop Williamson's conference. He began to bring up about the new Mass. And there was a man, I was standing on the side, and there was a man in the middle, and he shook his head, said, "Excuse me, Bishop, but did you just say it's okay to go to the new Mass?" And the bishop said, "Well," and then I jumped in, and I finished the sentence. I forget how I did. I picked up the words of the bishop, and I said, "Hell no, you can't go." And then the bishop went, and then we moved on. I knew exactly what he was going to say, and I stopped it. In 2000, and I used to travel with the bishop in 2013 and 2013 because I knew that when we would go from place to place, he would speak to the people, and if he could, he would get them to leave. And I knew that. I went around and smiled the whole time. And I walked behind him. And when he would speak to somebody about something against the faith, I would talk to the person and say, "No, just stay, don't listen to him, just stay." We went to India. I traveled with him to India. And we went to the village of Arinkandihe, where I was the pastor. And there were 5 Bangalore doctors, several Bangalore doctors. They're there now, some of them are there now. And they had this vision that they were going to establish an old folks' home and a priory in the village of Arinkandihe. It's now built. They said, "We need to do this." And I said, "That's a good thing, you do it." Bishop Williamson said, "No, don't do it. Don't be surprised if it all fails. Don't do it. It can't work. It's impossible." And they said, "No, you do it." And so they did. Priory is now built. Each step of the way. Now they thought he was just warning us that maybe it may not succeed. We understand that. No, he's not just warning you that it may not succeed. He's trying to stop it. And this happened in each place. Was not able to always travel with them after that. But then as he would travel and visit the priests, drop little negative words here, drop little negative words there, drop other negative words there, he just slowly create a breaking apart of the priests. New priest contact. Many of the priests and the faithful, they would contact me after they had contacted Bishop Williamson. And, "Well, the bishop told me that I shouldn't do this." No, you just stay with the truth, etc. And now, in 2015, it begins to go public. When he decided to go public in Mailpec, New York, I was driving by, but I was not invited to the ceremony. Father Hugo and I came back from the Philippines that weekend. That weekend, there was a coup attempt in Kentucky. We had to be gone for the week in the Philippines for the ordination of Father Sunil to the subdiaconate. He was in the seminary in Kentucky. He'd never been to he's from India. He had never been to the Philippines ever in his life. He had to get a visa. He was required to fly to the Philippines in order to be ordained because he was not allowed to be ordained in Kentucky. Bishop Williamson did agree to ordain him, so he went through with the ordination, but he made it in such a way that we had to get a visa, we had to make a flight to the Philippines, and he was ordained in the seminary over there. He was there just to be ordained. Never went to the seminary there. The seminary was in Kentucky. His final year, the final year of the seminary. And then he had to be ordained in India, South India, so I went to, next was ordination in India. Bishop Ford, the new Bishop Ford, did both of the ordinations, to the diaconate and then to the priesthood. Bishop Father Sunil came here to be ordained subdeacon and deacon. He ordained him subdeacon, but then he didn't want to ordain him deacon because he was too tired. So he refused. And I said, "The bishop, I need him to preach sermons as part of his final training. He needs to learn the Mass, he needs to preach sermons, he needs to be a deacon." No, he refused. So he was ordained subdeacon, but not deacon. Then he went back to America, and then he refused to ordain a deacon in America, but he had to fly over to the Philippines to be ordained a deacon. So, and then I had to make that trip over here to Broadstairs, a couple of trips. One of the trips, so I only went to Broadstairs once, was a trip in order to talk about the curtains, talk about the wee beach, talk about the weather, talk about Darwin's house. Darwin, whatever his name is, Dickens. They're both equally holy. Okay, you know, and so Dickens' house, etc. And then I had to pay $2,500 plane ticket to fly with a couple of days' notice to talk about the curtains. Talk about the curtains. That was the condition in order to get Father Sunil ordained. So I did it. Now, then he was finally ordained to the priesthood. The condition: cannot be with Father Pfeiffer. You cannot be together. So, how is division happening in the resistance? It is a willed division. It is caused by people actively trying to create it. And the division has a theological purpose. Bishop Williamson, in the last 6 months, has been stating clearly in his Eliason comments, remember 3 Eliason comments on the New Mass, 2, Parasite 1, Parasite 2, then we have the one today. Can you pull out the one today? 1 second. The one today, he speaks about the resistance. Just do one sentence from it. We can find it here. He talks about the resistance outside of tradition. So resistance is expanding. Here is Father Cardozo's explanation. Father Cardozo, sorry he couldn't be here. He had to get back to the people in Mexico. And but if you want Father Cardozo's speech that he would have given today, it's very easy to find. February 28th, 2016. And that particular day he wasn't in the finest of moods. What is it? It's in the record. You got the English translation there, and you fixed it up. The English translation is reticent, but you need to see it. I don't care if you understand a word of Spanish. You need to see it in Spanish. Every word is clear. Right? He's not in the finest of moods. However, it is inspired by the Holy Ghost. He's not just angry. It's a holy anger because of the danger to the sheep. And so he speaks clearly what the troubles are, and that we're in a battle of the faith. And so we got to remember that we're in a battle of the faith. But what's happening is a new doctrine is being proposed. A new doctrine is being proposed. In fact, can you just go through it and find it? In the Eliason comments where he says resistance outside. It's in there somewhere on the internet. You can find it. Now, it's just the latest error. Now, the fact is, what's happening? I mentioned in a sermon a few weeks ago 5 steps of a subversion. First step, false friendship. Claim you're the friend, but don't give any real positive advice, just give an impression of friendship. Second step, deaf ear to the call for help. Beg for help. How many confirmations have there been in England in the last 4 years? The total is 0.0. They were private ones. There were 0 actual ceremonies of confirmation, correct? Total number is 0. Now, many want their kids confirmed, but if you're in England, you're not going to be able to get your children confirmed, except by Bishop Williamson or Bishop Tissier. Those who live outside of England, they may have their children confirmed. Last year, Bishop Williamson called me after Father Zendeas divided the parish in New York City. He told me, I will come and do confirmations in your parish, but I will not do any confirmations in the New York City area. So we have about 4 or 5 chapels in that area. Those children can no longer be confirmed because they live within a 100-mile radius of Father Zendeas' chapel. The night before the confirmations in that Mailpack, New York, in June of 2015, I called one of my former parishioners and said, where's the confirmations happening tomorrow? And she told me, I am not at liberty to say. 150 people found out and went to the confirmations. One of my faithful who need to be conditionally confirmed happened to live 3 houses down from the place they rented. And so I called him up and said, walk on down there, see how it's going. And he walked down. You got the passage, okay? He walked out, but he was not confirmed. He lived in the wrong place, 3 houses down. Now, and the notice was not made. This is just simply one sentence of the latest era. We must understand that this movement is not a movement about personalities. Bishop Williamson made the point in November of 2012, personalities, however he says it, poisonalities. We have a problem with poisonalities. No, we do not. This is a distraction. The trouble is not poisonalities. The trouble is doctrine. Now, persons carry doctrine. Remember, our faith is incarnational. St. Pius X cannot preach the truth to you. St. John Vianney cannot hear your confession. Nor can any other sainted priest who is now in heaven celebrate Mass for you. It must be a living priest on the earth in statu viae, we say in Latin, in the state of the wayfarer, who gives you the confession, who preaches you the faith. This is what you need. Must be a real living priest on the earth today. Surely resistant Catholics, inside or outside of tradition, have to take into account the many consequences of the split between truth and authority. Resistant Catholics, inside and outside tradition. Won't read the whole thing. A new doctrine is being carried to souls. A new doctrine is being carried to souls. First step, pretend like you're a friend without giving true positive advice to help anyone. Second step, turn a deaf ear to help. Third step, spread gossip. Gossip about persons. In order to get people to turn one against another, divide. Fourth step, bring in the new doctrine with different language. Or rather, bring in the same old heresies with different language. This is what happened in the middle of 2015. Bishop Williamson speaks about the new Mass. Imagine he had spoken about that in 2013. It was too early. People would say, this is wrong. Goodbye, Bishop. But after we see fighting, and the word is spread, the resistance is weak, and priests are fighting priests, and they're complaining about each other, and this one's bad, and that one's bad, and the seminary is bad, and this is all bad, everything is bad, and scandals here and scandals there, then you bring in the new doctrine, and it sticks. What's happening? Our faithful are talking about the new Mass being good. Our faithful. That, maybe the new Mass isn't all that bad. And what's the great blow, the great wise attack? Miracles. We can compare the miracle attack to the Rosary Crusade. See, in the Rosary Crusade, when Bishop Pfeiffer created the Rosary Crusade is, if you love Mary and you love the Rosary, you have to be in favor of the deal with Rome. And if you're not in favor of the deal with Rome, you don't believe in the Rosary, you don't believe in Mary. It's an irrational argument, but it's very powerful to people that have the faith. I love Mary, I love the Rosary. I must accept that it was a miracle that the new Mass was the new Mass was called ordinary. I must accept that it's a miracle that we extraordinary Masses approve now. I must accept it's a miracle that the excommunications that never happened were lifted. Rosary. This is the same thing. If Bishop Williamson or any other man of error tells you new Mass is good, you'll say, no, you're wrong. But if he says, it's facts or stubborn things, and it's a reality, there are miracles in the new Mass. Oh, miracles. If you don't believe in miracles in the new Mass, then you don't believe in the resurrection. But that's a miracle. You don't believe Jesus Christ is God because he proved it by his miracles. So therefore, if you don't accept that there's miracles in the new Mass, then you deny all of Christianity. It's the same argument as the Rosary Crusade. Oh, well, I can't be against miracles. It's a very demonic attack. What's the purpose of it? To get our people to lose their faith. The way Father Cardozo describes it, he says, in any revolution, there's going to be an action. To every action, there will be a reaction. Since the enemy knows to the action there will be a reaction, and you know when you're going to do the action, the proper thing to do is set up the reactors before the action. Example, 2009, Holocaust-denying bishop gets persecuted. All persecuted people run to the aid of Holocaust-denying bishop. The Holocaust-denying bishop criticizes Bishop Pfeiffer. Very weak criticisms, but nonetheless criticisms. Father Cardozo writes in May of 2012, he was the first priest to do this, "I reject the authority of Bishop Pfeiffer, and I put myself under Bishop Williamson." Bishop Williamson said, "No, you don't." So he was left alone. We met in January 2013, and at that time, Father Cardozo, we all thought Bishop Williamson was still really with us, but just weak. So at that point, he said, with Bishop Williamson, we just have to disregard him, and we must continue to fight for the truth and pray for the day when he will come and truly join us. And if he doesn't, we keep going. If he does, we keep going. And that is what Father Giselle told Bishop Tissier. Tissier said, "I'm a captain. And you must obey the captain." And Father Giselle responded in 2012, "You're also a shepherd. And when a shepherd will not defend the sheep, the dogs are the next line of defense. I'm a dog. I'm barking. Come and join me whenever you wish." But Tissier was like, no response. Father Giselle said the right thing. So, we must remember the battle still remains a battle of faith. The danger still remains false teaching versus a true teaching. And we shouldn't be distracted too much by the individuals. As our Sister Lefebvre said, if I teach the truth, you follow me. If I go away from it, abandon me. And as Father Hugo says, don't just abandon me, kill me. So, that's correct. That is correct. But if we stop teaching the truth, we must be abandoned. If we continue to teach the truth, then we should be followed. And if we teach error, we must be abandoned. And that is not a matter who teaches the error. Bishop Williamson, we thought, was going to be the great Becket. Turned out it's not working out to be that way. We're not against Bishop Williamson personally. I love Bishop Williamson. He's the father of my priesthood. If he gets left in the streets one day, we'll go and try to pick him up, take care of him. But he is not standing for the truth, and he's working actively against it, and that is a fact. Unfortunately, at this time, it is necessary to expose that fact. Signs that our little meeting of 5 priests who are not worth very much is causing great nervousness is the present renewed attack in South America. What do you do whenever there is a problem and we bring up the truth? It's a little pop-up machine. Ambrose. No, recently they brought up Bishop Ambrose. And the other one, of course, much bigger, Paul the Mexican. One day we're going to have a visit here. We're going to bring Paul the Mexican in his cage. And you can come and visit. You'll be... We'll have him standing behind the cage. We're going to charge admission and we'll become millionaires overnight. Now, the fact is, it's not about Paul the Mexican. They call him Pablo the Mexican. I don't change his name. His name was Paul. He went to Mexico and got saved and became Pablo one day. So, I just call him by his original name. But the fact is that, that it's not about Paul the Mexican. It's not about Father Pfeiffer. It's not about Bishop Williamson. It's not about even the crisis of Father Abraham. Though that's a crisis, it's a terrible thing. If this was the only trouble, we would tolerate it. Condemn it, of course, is not according to the law of God, but we would tolerate it. The trouble is teaching heresy leads soul to hell. Englishmen should know that better than others because there have been wicked kings everywhere. Wicked kings is a pretty popular kind of king to be. We read it in the book of the Kings. It's a book of evil kings. There's only 2 good ones in the whole book. Now, being an evil king is not special. Well, you happen to have an evil king that had several girlfriends and decided to make it legal. You happen to have an evil king that decided to make it according to the law of God. Therefore, he formed another religion. The evil king died, but his sin remains in England to this day. Why? Because he made a heresy. He made a schism. He made another religion. And billions of souls have been affected by it 400 years later. Whereas if it was just another king that murdered his wife, I mean, what's the big deal? But he added heresy. He would burn in hell. Those who helped him would burn in hell. But then the sin would stop with him. But when you have heresy, when you have error, the sin spreads and it doesn't stop. It infects millions. That's why the first commandment is the first commandment, and the sixth commandment is not the first commandment, and the fifth commandment is not the first commandment. The first commandment is the most important commandment. I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not have strange gods before me. And this is the commandment that's being violated by Bishop Williamson, by Pope Francis, and now by Bishop Williamson. Therefore, we must speak against them. By the way, they're having precisely the same modernist error. Now, Father Cardozo finished. Action, reaction. When you control the reaction, you are assured of victory. Therefore, Bishop Williamson was placed, most likely, as part of the reaction. And we don't need to know the details of his inner life, but the actions are certainly contrary to the law of God, and the actions are certainly leading souls away from him. Now, how is it fixed? It can be fixed in one instant. All that he has to do, and all that Bishop Fillet has to do, and all that Pope Francis has to do. I don't care if they all worship the same, they all worship Satan together, and they're all in the same cabal or whatever it is. All they have to do is stand for the truth today. All they have to do is promote the truth today. And all their sins are forgiven. And all the sins will be forgotten. Whatever they are. So, all that is necessary is that one bishop and the Holy Father stand for the truth. And whatever sins and whatever difficulties they may have had in the past, they will be completely forgiven. And one thing the devil does is he tries to make souls think that there's no way out. Supposing you make a mistake and you do evil things and you do wrong things. You might be made to believe by the devil you've been too wicked, just like Judas was told. But remember, Judas was not as wicked as Peter. Peter was more wicked than Judas. He denied Christ 3 times. He had greater graces. He was closer to our Lord. His sin was greater. But Peter repented, and he's a saint. Judas repented unto himself, and he despaired and went to hell. All these wicked bishops and these wicked priests who are not pushing the law of God, whosoever they might be, and whatever degree of wickedness they happen to be in, all that is necessary is that they repent and stand for the truth. It takes 1 second. Like one of our resistance faithful met Cardinal Burke. She was invited to a fundraiser in North Carolina and visited Cardinal Burke. And so she talked to him. She said, "You stand for the truth." Simple lady. And the Cardinal was shaking. And he held his heart. He had to take water. He said, "What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?" She said, "Open your mouth and speak the truth." How hard is that? In fact, she told me all the things she said in those 10 minutes. She was clearly inspired by the Holy Ghost. I can't remember all the things she said, but everything was bang. She covered everything. Vatican II, the new Mass, every single thing. And all perfectly. And the Cardinal definitely heard. And he was given a grace that day. Who knows, maybe one day he'll repent. But the fact is that you must open your mouth and speak the truth, regardless of whatever happened in the past. And so, we're not against anyone. Unfortunately, at this time, it is necessary to expose that there is a serious problem with Bishop Williamson and the priests that are working closely with him, who are working to divide and to lead souls away from the truth, rather than lead them towards the truth. And some knowingly, some unknowingly, but in any case, it's leading souls astray. Therefore, we have to say no to it. And we have to continue to stand for the same truth. The truth will never change. So in any case, we'll do that, and there's going to be a victory. And remember, everything has been done. They tried to close the seminary multiple times. They mock our seminarians, saying they will never be ordained priests. Some have already left because there's no hope of being ordained. And they say, where is your bishop? God will provide the bishop. Like Father Cardozo says, who's my bishop? He says, St. Ambrose is my bishop. St. Augustine is my bishop. And there are thousands of sainted bishops. John Fisher, he mentions one of them. This is my bishop. And God will provide faithful bishops. Some are maybe taking a nap right now. Maybe they're in a coma. But God will provide. And there is no doubt. And He's only asking of us to have faith. We have to persevere in the faith in the real battlefield. And we cannot let bitterness into the soul. We cannot let anger into the soul. Though we must point out occasionally that there are serious problems, we cannot let bitterness and anger into the soul. Stand firmly to the faith and be ready for repentance. If anyone repents, we accept them. But they must hold the truth. And that's all that's required. And Our Lady is going to make it happen one day. No one can resist her. And she will have her victory.